Welcome back to Combat Mission Red Thunder for this year's Winter Turn by Turn. So every year the tradition now is I do a battle where I say and pause a lot. It's unscripted. I just stick the headset mic on, which is why the audio quality is slightly worse, and talk my way through things as I play the game turn by turn. One turn at a time every day until it's done, which is less streamlined than doing the conventional video after action reports, but you get to see the ups and downs, the actual mechanics of playing the game, all that stuff. This time we're doing Combat Mission Red Thunder because I haven't actually done a Combat Mission Red Thunder one of these before. And we're fighting in Stalingrad over Pavlov's house. This was pretty much a must for me because of Red Orchestra 2, one of my favourite maps, Pavlov's house. Historically speaking, it was one of those landmarks that got a bit of legend attached to it, defended by Sergeant Pavlov, and the Germans never took it. Of course, that does raise a little bit of an issue in combat mission terms. Combat Mission Red Thunder, with the Fire and Rubble expansion, is set from summer 1944 to the end of the war in 1945. Stalingrad, the Battle of Stalingrad, took place from mid-1942 to February 43. So the kind of details that Combat Mission really prides itself on, unit availability, changes in formations, tables of equipment and organization, when different units become available, that's kind of off mark because we're 2 years too early. So we're getting around this. What we've decided to do is try and keep it authentic. There are units on both sides, vehicles on both sides, which are just kind of not applicable, aren't really going to work. You know, things like Panthers and King Tigers, stuff like that on the German side. Later marks of T-34, for example, on the Soviet side. But a lot of these vehicles stayed in service. The Germans, certainly because we're going towards the end of the war, started reactivating stuff because they had nothing. So some earlier vehicles do show up. They tend to be quite rare, so we've just knocked the rarity off so we can just take them without having to mess around with that. So there are going to be outliers, little weird things. So, you know, again, the Germans, MP44s might show up here and there. Panzerfausts, you can't really get rid of the Panzerfausts because they're just part of the squad organization. But these are little things. You know, it can simulate something else, like a big fancy rifle grenade or an MP40, you know, stuff like that. It's minor details. We can't get rid of them, so we're just going to have to live with it. Speaking of my opponent here is Halloween, who you may remember we've fought 2 games so far in Shock Force 2. The first was a bit of a draw, and the second one, he kicked the snot out of me. In an urban battle, no less. So this should be interesting. I've got a bit of obviously a bit of payback would be nice, but at the same time that could be quite a challenge. For this one, we are doing it as a mirror game, so the other half where I'm going to be defending as the Soviets, we'll do that as a separate AAR. This one, the slightly more dynamic attacking as the Germans, this one gets the turn-by-turn treatment. So, This is Pavlov's house. It's a large apartment block overlooking the 9th of January square. So it's an assault type quick battle, and that means that there are 1,000 points on offer for each side. You get 750 points for securing the objective. There's just this one objective, just Pavlov's house. I have no idea how balanced this is going to be. It's all about just having some fun. And 250 points left over. That's for causing casualties on the enemy. So this is it, basically. To get that game-winning 750 points, you need to be in control, total control of this great big building. So if the other player has even one little pixel trapper inside, that's it. You know, nobody gets the points. It's denied, and then it will come down to the casualties. And you know, it could be quite difficult to get to. So actually getting into the house, you know, there's doors down the side. This last little wing sticks out a little bit. There should maybe be some windows in there, but that's the point. I should mention the map. The map is from the old Stalingrad mod. Which was for the original vanilla combat mission Red Thunder. There's some other bits that go along with it, like changing textures and other flavor objects, which I haven't added in. I'll leave a link to all this stuff down in the description. But it comes with, or when they made the mod, they made the map of Central Stalingrad. So I haven't made this. Somebody much better at making maps has made this. This is a small piece of it. The whole thing tends to like melt my computer a bit. And of course, because it's the winter turn by turn, here's some snow. So where were we? Yeah, Pavlov's house. How do we get in? Well, we got these destroyed facade on the front, and we got some doors down the side. On the front left here, like the 9th of January square, this is a big chunk of open ground. It's not completely flat. There is, you know, a bit of undulating terrain. There's some grass, some rubble, stuff like that. So it's not some bushes. It's not totally like an open billiard table instantly get shot, but there are a lot of tall buildings and elevated firing positions about, so it's quite risky. Further off on the left, we've got Tamburskaya Road going down here, and on the other side of that we've got some of these like workers housing, low-level bungalows. So quite dense, a lot of windows. Again, you got this churned up rubble all around all the buildings. Behind Pavlov's house, we've got Pentonskaya. I'm going to massacre all these names. There's a line of workshops. Pentonskaya is actually in a bit of a ditch with the rubble piled up on either side. So this could potentially be a route for, you know, the defenders to shuffle troops around under cover somewhat if they crawl and they're really lucky. Behind that we've got the mill. This is Gerhardt's mill. Again, this building is actually intact. Maybe could have changed the textures to brick because it's a big building, but you know, fine, whatever. It doesn't change. These are just modular standard buildings. It doesn't change the defensive properties if it's got this kind of wood, Eastern European wooden facade on it. This building is still there. They left it, preserved it after the end of the battle. I'd say you can go see it, but traveling to Russia, especially to Volgograd, which is near Rostov-ish. There, yeah, don't do that. That's a bad idea. At least right now. Behind that, we've got a couple more buildings. We've got this tram line. Then on the other side of the road from Pavlov's house, we have Zab's house. I'm not even going to try and pronounce Sabolotov. Yeah, Zab's house, because that was the objective name in RO2. It's the same kind of apartment block as Pavlov's house. It's just been beaten up a bit more. And then we have these, there's a few buildings. The terrain gets a bit denser. These are a bit bigger than the workers' bungalows. Behind that, there's the waterworks and the power plant. Great big chunky buildings. Don't necessarily need to get too close to them, but they are probably... Oh, we can peek through there, can't we? Are probably going to have defenders in. That's just smart. And then... closer on the right, we have a bit of an open space square here, and then we have the Voyentorg from RO2. So this kind of like U-shaped building with a big gap in the middle. The close end is a post office, apparently. Didn't know that. Behind that, we've got the German deployment zone. This big blue chunk. It's faced off by these two-story buildings along the road. I feel like these should maybe have more windows. That could be interesting later on, but again, I'm not going to tweak the map. Yeah, so I wanted to have a big deployment zone so that you have space to actually set out your forces and things. None of these like inch-wide deployment zones with like a battalion fit into it somehow. It's just a nightmare. So yeah, it's a small assault. So I have about, I can't remember. We'll see in a minute when I go back to the force selector. There's a lot of not that many points to spend, but the attacker has a significant points advantage over the defender. So while getting to Pavlov's house might be quite tough, there's a lot of open ground and there's a lot of windows, and trying to clear a big building like that could be, tough. That's going to require quite a lot of manpower. So you're going to have to cross a lot of people over here, potentially. That's a bit of a nightmare. So the plus side is that it is immediately available. It's not like, I think I set the Russian deployment zone is about on this road or this road, I can't remember, but it goes straight across. There is a bit of no man's land in between. Essentially, there's two, as I see it, there's two options to attack. You can go up the right, so we take these buildings, clear out this area, clear Zab's house, and then you've secured most of the flank of Pavlov's house, and then you either use this as a support by fire position or actually attack from that direction. That's, maybe smarter. It's a 45-minute game, so there is time to do that kind of thing. On the other hand, urban warfare against the Soviets with all their submachine guns, yeah, could be tough and slow and casualty intensive. I know I said that casualties don't matter in terms of their 250 points compared to 750 points for the objective, but they still represent a degradation of capability, and that's bad. The other option is to hit at the left and take advantage of the 9th of January square. We have all these buildings down here, which can be used for a base of fire. Throw some smoke in. If we mask off, say, all these buildings here on this side with smoke, then we only need to worry about suppressing the mill, the workshop, Pavlov's house, and these buildings down here, which we might be able to escape attention from anyway, because there is quite a bit. There's this kind of berm going through, or lumpy bit on that side of the square there, so we might be able to push through with some vehicles. There are some like little forest, light forest tiles or brush. I can't remember. I'm not sure which one these are actually. Could be light forest, which will slow vehicles down. But there's also these chunks of snow where they can, zoom up here pretty quick. So either way, whatever we do, is basically I need to have a plan. This is how I'm going to attack Pavlov's house, and then carry it out. And that's going to need to not be gimmicky. It's going to have to really rest on the fundamentals, because I know Halloween is going to kick the snot out of me again if I try and be clever. So going left and exploiting the square also opens up the possibility of chewing through here, which could be tough because, again, lots of buildings, close ranges, PPSH, not very nice, but with this chunk of flank secured, which is fewer buildings than on the other flank, we can actually get some degree of screening from all the buildings on the other side of Pavlov's house, because that building is actually going to screen it. Get down here, cut off, work the cut off, stop Soviet reinforcements getting into Pavlov's house, and then just grind them down, and chew them up until it becomes sensible to attack the building itself, or even to just to attack down this road. I mean, the mill, the workshop, Pavlov's house, other buildings in the back, not smart, maybe, but smoke and enough fire support, we'll see. So very simple. I need a two basic component force. I need an assault force. They're the ones who are actually going to go into Pavlov's house and clear it out. And I need a supporting force, which should really have a base of fire. So lots of heavy machine guns, mortars, stuff like that. And some other, let's call them security or phase 1 elements. They're the ones who are going to go forward and secure, subsidiary buildings on either flank that we're going to need to clear out areas so that the assault force can move in fairly unmolested. So, yeah. I do have what I'm leaning on in terms of planning is to actually, because I can have quite a large force, push both flanks for maybe 15 minutes. See how Halloween reacts. Degrade his forces a bit, and then have a pre-arranged smoke barrage. Say from Pavlov's house down to here in a straight line, and then send the assault force in on either side of that line, depending on how safe it is. So what I want to do basically is kind of draw Halloween off to one side or the other, and then punch for the objective under cover of smoke with as much supporting fire as I can get. So actually clearing the place, that's a force that's going to need to have breach teams, automatic weapons, preferably some flamethrowers, all the fun stuff. And I need to consider the possibility of using vehicles to get them closer. So half tracks, potentially, but they're kind of single use. You can just use them for transporting stuff. Alternatively, obviously Combat Mission Red Thunder has tank riding, so I could, if I have some tanks, I can load them up with the assault force and squirt them across here to cover the ground quickly with enough supporting fire and obscuration, that could pay off, because I have done a little bit of testing, and it's going to be like it takes about a turn and a half to rush across here from a standing start. So that's not that long for Halloween to react. It's still enough for one unsuppressed, lucky Soviet submachine gunner to hose off a Panzer III or a Panzer IV of tank riders. So yeah, we'll see. There's always going to be some risk involved. The tricky part for assaulting the house, I think, is going to be finding the right balance. So having a large enough force to sustain some casualties and keep going, but also a small enough force that if it all goes wrong, I retain other options. It's not instantly game over. Again, you're 45 minutes, it's quite a long game. So, hopefully, conditions, while we're here, it's slightly snowing, it's -7 degrees C, there's no wind. That in particular is going to make smoke a really strong option. So if I press escape, hopefully we're going to go back to the force selector screen and the recording isn't going to mess up. Boom, bingo, right. So what do I want to bring for this? We're going to kick off with a Fusilier battalion. Why Fusiliers? Because they have a couple more extra. Oh god. They have more. What's the word? Automatic weapons. So each rifle section, or Fusilier section rather, has 2 MP40s and an MG42 or 34. Your standard rifle squad, your grenadier squad, has 1 automatic weapon and an MG42. Generally, off the top of my head. So, more automatic weapons, big thumbs up. The other candidate I was looking at was actually the straggler groups. So straggler groups tend to have 3 MP40s in them, but you don't have machine guns. So, you can use an MG42 to clear rooms, and it's much better than rifles, which is what everybody else in the straggler team has. So, yeah. I did toy with the idea, but ultimately no. So, we're going to start off with a company. So that's, 9 squads. And then we have some attached HMG teams. And then from the weapons company, we want some more heavy machine guns. That's good. So that's one section is 2 tripods. So that's 4, 6. Yeah, that'll do. 6 including this one up here. And then for the mortars, on map is always better, because you can always throw your unfortunate mortar crews into infantry roles once they run out of ammunition. And we're going to set all those to regular normal, no modifiers, and boom, great coats, because I'm not sure about how accurate the uniform, well, pretty sure that the camo uniforms that they wear aren't accurate for 42. So that's the kind of combined. This is a good chunk of base of fire stuff. This Fusilier company has options. It can kind of go join the assault, or it can support. We got some good options there. The actual assault force, I'm leaning on pioneers. So annoyingly, oh sorry, no, what am I looking for? I'm looking for a regimental pioneer company. Yeah. very annoyingly, I couldn't find flamethrowers in the special units tab. Um, even for like the armored infantry or the armor only. So that's kind of annoying. The only way I'm getting flamethrowers is if I bring these guys, because they have the option to bring it's like a 6 or 7 man squad, and then you tag a flamethrower on the end. And to give them a bit of extra firepower, we're going to bring in some scout teams. So scout team, there's one of them for each squad. So a scout team is 3 guys with MP40s. Yes, please, you can go first after the flamethrower has torched the building out in front. So that's the assault force. So again, it's only platoon strength. It's quite small, but I want to bring a lot of supporting firepower so they can get that foothold and start, grinding everything down. Then we have what? We have about 986 points to spend on other supporting elements. So tanks, want some tanks. I'm going to attach these to the Fusilier Battalion. So we go back to single vehicles and Panzer IIIs. So these Panzer III Ms, Ns, and Gs are the kind of things that are rare. So they have a high rarity value. You don't usually see them in normal battles. That's why I've turned this off. All this other stuff is kind of, not really Stalingrad-y. So, want of a better word. Panzer IVs were there, obviously, but these are like long-barreled Panzer IVs, which, they were there. It's not quite the same. They're also a lot more expensive than the Panzer III, so I'm really leaning on Panzer IIIs here, and the G is the earliest model. So let's take a couple of those, and then we've got the Panzer III-N. So this is one which basically has a short-barreled 75mm gun. Actually, I'm pretty confident that it's actually an old Panzer IV turret stuck on top of a Panzer III hull. Don't quote me on that, though. So the idea with this is, I'm pretty sure that the Panzer III-N is post-Stalingrad, a post-Stalingrad Panzer III modification. But it's also a slightly worse version of a Panzer IV with a short-barreled 75, or a Stug with a short-barreled 75, which is not here. I'm not sure how accurate the turret has skirts around it. It has the Schutzen. I'm not sure how accurate that is to Stalingrad, but that's the closest we're going to get. So let's bring 2 of them as well. And conveniently, as someone who has checked these things out in advance, these have enough space for tank riders for a squad of pioneers with a flamethrower and a scout team. What a coincidence. There we have some. So we've got some mortars, we've got some tanks, we've got our infantry, we've got our assault force. We need some artillery. And what I'm leaning on is some medium howitzers. So these are quite expensive, which isn't great, but they have 160 rounds of HE and 40 rounds of smoke. I like smoke. That's going to be really... I say I like smoke. I barely ever use smoke when I'm playing combat mission. I'm trying to break that habit. And 105 is a nice big chunky caliber for World War II, I should add. Obviously, that's going to knock us over the limit, so we can knock them down to conscript, which shouldn't be too big of a deal, because I'm intending to use them almost entirely in a pre-planned role. So I have less points than I had last time I went through this in the trial run for some reason, which is interesting. Where do I have... Where have I lost points? Where have I gained... So what I'm looking to do is fit a TRP in, basically, so that I can easily call the artillery. Yeah, that's interesting. I had... what have I got here that I didn't have when I was testing this out? I'll get rid of the HQ support team. So what I'm looking for is 30 points. That's how much a target reference point is. So I'm like 9 points out. Oh well. Let's ignore that. Let's can we bump? Oh yes, we can bump the pioneers up to being more motivated. There's plenty of line of sight, assuming some idiot doesn't smoke everything up. I should be able to get, with the proper planning and everything, I should be able to get rounds on target without TRPs. So yeah, it just kind of bumped the motivation of some of these up. And the scout teams are... oh, you know what, let's make them veteran but high motivation instead. Instead of being crack. Yeah, this is like just tiny little... tiny little adjustments. A little bit of min-maxing. The important thing is that it's going to be an interesting slant on things. So yeah, that is... that's it. That's what we're going to go for. So now, not in this video, off screen, because it will take forever, is the part where I go through all of these units and I rename them with randomly selected names from the list of names of people who want to take part. So good luck, and I'll see you in a minute when we get onto the deployment. And we're back. So I've this is actually the day after. I've renamed everybody. We'll go through that in a second. Everybody is set up and deployed and has their first turn orders. And we will get to all that. So first let's go through. So where's the battalion? So we have the Fusilier Battalion HQ. I have a big, quite a big chunk of people in the milk house here. So this is a great big building. We can see right down the middle here. So yeah, the Battalion HQ. That is Project Firehawk. With the hat there. And he's currently calling in the artillery, which I will get to in a second. Following on from Project Firehawk with the Battalion HQ, we have the 1st Company headquarters, which is in this building here behind the market halls. And that is Dead Salmon. Hanging out in there. So most of the Fusilier Company is over on this flank. They're the ones who are going to be well, we'll get to it. So the machine gun section, is threat level Tesco, or led by threat level Tesco. He's set up just in this building here for a bit of spotting and a bit of security. That's from the Patreon. And then the machine gun team here is Von Braun, who's also from the Patreon. Set up in this building, so we can cover off this chunk of the map here from that window. And then we have the B team. Annoyingly, you can't rename the machine gun team B teams. So this is Maya. He's just a bot. And again, you can see the logic here. This is another support by fire position, covering off the Vointorg corner, a bit of Pavlov's, and these buildings on the other side of the little bit of square there. Over here we have the Fusilier Patreon platoon. So this is a platoon of Patreon subscribers, led by Middle Eastern Magician, with the platoon HQ just behind this building here, across from the post office. And they're going to be moving across up against the post office building on turn 1. So the first squad is led by Jim Hull. They're not moving, they're just going to hang around up here to offer a little bit of support for the other squads crossing over. Then we have Luke on the ground floor in 2 squad. They're running across, and then Big Lemons, who's coming across. So like I say, there's the Patreon platoon, so they're first in. They're all going to die. Their job is to get to grips with the post office. So I want to take the post office. This is kind of in no man's land between... I did go and check. The limit of the Soviet Defender deployment zone is this road here. So it goes across the map like that. So I want to move up to secure the post office. Great big L-shaped building. Plenty of potential for supporting by fire going this way. There's a lot of buildings on this map only have one window on their facing, which is interesting. I'm not sure if that was a design decision or that's just how it kind of panned out somewhere. I think you got to change them, but that could make it interesting when we start getting the firefights. It's going to be really important to start splitting the squads down. So you don't have 8, 9 or 8 pixel trepan clustered around one window waiting for a high explosive shell. So that is the first platoon, the Patreon platoon. First into the grinder. Next up we have second platoon, who are in reserve, or the immediate reserve, in this kind of area behind the market halls again. So we have Karl's Munn leading the platoon. He's set up in that building where he got an elevated look at what's going on. Beneath him there's Comrade Cat with first squad. Across the way, second squad under Adler. Not sure if that should be Der Adler, I can't remember. As usual, as an aside, if I completely have managed to spell the name wrong, or I'm going to mispronounce it all the way through the game, sorry in advance. And finally, the third squad for second platoon, we have, speaking of names I can't pronounce, Vodsta Medjda. And again, they're in reserve there, behind the market halls. So this platoon, second platoon's job is to follow up on the post office. So we're going to occupy the building, set up a base of fire, and then exploit that to push across to the Vointorg, which is this corner here, and then with that little bit closer to Pavlov's house. For another, you guessed it, support by fire position. And we can start threatening Zab's house and this block here. So actually in reserve, not standing by to leapfrog, and somewhat contributing to security on this flank down this road, we have three platoon. So that's led by the Snow Urbis, who's down here. Then we have first squad over on this side, led by a Lubka. They're already split. So there's the more assaulty element with the MP40s behind the building where they're safe, and then inside, again, you can't rename split teams, which is really annoying. We have the MG and a scoped Kar-98. Watching that corner there. So yeah, it's a bit of an awkward position because there's this big lump of rubble in front of them, but you know, again, it's mostly an exercise in security. I don't want people, I don't want Hollowing to mount some kind of counter punch up this way to throw me off. Second squad for 3 platoon is Jakob Slaretta. I'm sure I pronounced this right last year. Or the year before, I can't remember. Jakob, that'll do. Again, same deal, covering off this flank. That's as high as they can go in this building, up to the 3rd floor. The 4th floor, we've got this collapsed roof, which you can't really do anything with. You can't occupy that. We'll see if having this great big open wall here is a bad idea. Finally, for 3rd platoon, 3rd squad under Verukta Penguin, and you guessed it, they're doing the same thing. So that's that company. So the idea here is with the Fusiliers, we're going to punch up on this flank, and the idea here is to. We got 45 minutes. This is going to take, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. The idea is to draw Hollowing's defense over into this area. And I want to make that life difficult for him. If we think back to the artillery, where's my Fusilier Battalion HQ? There we are. The howitzers are coming in between Zab's house and on this block here. And I'm going to do that again, and I'm not going to click off by accident. Let's look at that mission. It's a harassing battery. So a couple of shells per turn to make it unsafe for Hollowing to have troops here. In fact, let's ceasefire that and give it a bit of a delay, because obviously we want him to get into position and then smack him around. Yeah, there we go. I mean, the problem with this artillery is that I can't remember why I wasn't able to fit TRP in, and on top, because they're conscript, which I did to keep the cost down because I'm a potato, and I don't have an FO because that would also be expensive, it's going to take 20 minutes to call them in again. So it's not very reactive at all, and I would rather make sure I get something out of them than nothing. So setting up a big smoke barrage, great, very effective, but the situation probably isn't going to be the same as it would be as I planned it by the time that I need to actually use the smoke. So, we've got a problem there, which is that it's going to take so long to adjust. I want to make sure I get the most out of the artillery. So the idea is to hit up this area. This is a natural area for Hollowing to adjust his defense into. So we're basically going to try and bait him into taking up positions around Zab's house and hammer it, and then, make it untenable with artillery, cause the casualties that are going to make it easier to get to Pavlov's. I still have smoke because I still have the mortars. So if we go to, where are we? There we are. All these buildings, it's not good for the frame rate. Yeah, we've got one mortar section HQ behind this building in the Fusilier Company's area. So this is the second mortar section. It's led by Adolf Schneider. And then we have our two mortars here at the back of the courtyard. Hans Webel, who's supported by Kunze? Huh. Obviously, these are also teams you can't rename because it's the B team, isn't it? Yeah, so we have Hans Feldwebel. No, you're not a sergeant. I don't know what that is, but it's not a sergeant. Hans Webel and Rob Frank 1130. Most of these YouTube names have numbers on the ends now. I've mostly ignored them because it's just harder to remember. Yeah, so these are hopefully far enough back that they can fire out of this courtyard. They should be able to. The ranges that they're going to be firing at are quite short, so we should still have that. You know, it's the furthest they can really shoot is at 800 meters, and I don't think that's going to adjust the angle of the mortar so much it hits these buildings in front of them. But yeah, so these guys are within command radius. They can be commanded by Dead Salmon with the HQ, who has the radio, so they do have a bit of a radio link there. Somewhat indirectly via the section HQ, Adolf Schneider. So these guys are, you know, in position to help support. I am minorly worried about... again, this is one of the reasons for the security. If Hollowing pushes up into this house here... Oh god. You might be able to get eyes on them, but that's why there's all this security. We'll see. The other mortar section is behind the milk house. And they're overlooked by the battalion HQ, who will be able to call them in. And, come to think of it, where are we? Yes, this is the mortar platoon HQ under Horser, who is one of the Patreons. He has the radio, so he can transmit stuff. So the first section of the mortars is under Justin Trudeau-Pixon. This is one of the problem with this. The names are a bit too long. I think it's Trudeau-Puppen. I think I'll have to write that down somewhere so I actually remember. Sorry. It's another Patreon one as well, so that's bonus. Of course, the B teams don't work. So the first mortar is Simpson, another Patreon, and the other mortar is FNG. So this is the Patreon mortar section. I've tried to clump people together. Again, they're behind the milk house, which is destroying my frames. Hopefully, they're going to be able to. They should be able to shoot over that, no problem. And they're relatively safe behind there. So the other supporting elements from the mortar platoon. Where's my 4 company HQ? So this is the weapon company headquarters, which is Copter 2000. Again, radio, binoculars. Congratulations, you get an OP position. So this is somewhere where I can direct the mortars from, essentially. So we can see Pavlov's house, we can see the gap between it and Zav's house, we can see Zav's house. It's quite a good spot. So yeah, we should be able to bring in the smoke from the mortars over there. And of course then we have the MG platoon HQ, which is Richard Hutchinson. Again, the machine gun platoon is one of the Patreon platoons. So Richard Hutchinson, who is basically over here because security, but I can also shuffle him into one of these buildings, so he can direct more of the fire where it's needed. And then we have that's a B team, so that's not a real person, but covering off again security on that flank and shooting into the middle here across the square at Pavlov's house. Jimmy Changovich on this corner, and we got a keyhole here where we can cover the mill and Pavlov's house and the square, of course, if Halloween does something insane and tries to get at me across the square. Yes, so the first section for the machine gun platoon. See, I'm getting mixing up, clicking on things and going through the C2 links. We have Fugler, who is set up to cover off the post office and the Voyentorg. And then the other machine gun is another AI, Husted, who is set up here, working that cutoff there. Again, we can't get in these get into these upper floors because the roofs have collapsed. He's high up as he can go, and you know we're going to cover down the railway line, and like I say, work the cutoff. This worked in RO2 as well. The idea is to stop or make life difficult for any enemy troops crossing from Zam's house to Pavlov's house. So, because we can shoot all the way down here, we can pretty much, hopefully, cut off the entire this half of the map. So again, this feeds in. I mean, one machine gun's probably not enough, but I can always move the other teams around and set up elsewhere. Is to sucker Halloween into this area again. Get him to bait him into this chunk opposite the Voyentorg. Fix him with the artillery. I'm going to use the proper terms. I'm going to say fix. And then cut him off, stop him from escaping this way. So he can go this way, back towards the power plant and the waterworks all day long. Fine, don't care. But it's to strip defences away from Pavlov's house, essentially. So that's the machine guns. What next? Oh, the tanks! Yes, tanks. We got 4 Panzer IIIs. Atlas Actual, one of the Patreon tanks, and yes, it is kind of Dunkelgelb, later war. Oh, look at that. Later war camo or base paint. It should probably be field grey because it's 1942, really. But whatever. He's keyholing through here. This is a Panzer III-G. With the 50mm gun, so we got plenty of ammo, but it's not great high explosive, because it's only 50mm. He's covering off that corner of the Voyentorg, which could be a position Halloween might set someone up in. And then further along on this flank, we have one of the Panzer III-Ns. That's Sclavian. He's hull down-ish. On the tram line, again covering off the Voyentorg. Should be relatively safe. It's about 300 meters over there. He is in rifle range, but I've got their heads out because it's just going to be easier for them to spot stuff. And next up we have Jeff von Katten. I don't think there's anything else behind that. I can't remember. And the other Panzer III-N, who is covering these buildings here. A little bit of extra support for the push towards the Voyentorg. And finally, for the tanks, we have Bubster 52, who's the other Patreon tank, in the other Panzer III-G, again covering the Voyentorg, but from the other side through this keyhole here. Obviously, the tanks, I can shuffle the tanks around because they're tanks and they're mobile. Uh, I think it's pretty likely that Halloween will bring at least one T-34. That's what I would do. I don't have a lot of anti-tank stuff. It's mostly the Panzer IIIGs. The Panzer IIINs, bigger caliber, but they only have 6 heat rounds each. They're mostly for fire support. So they have 46 high explosive rounds. And they can put some smoke down as well, which is useful. But I want to be able to keep the tanks shuffling, behind defilade, or shuffling from defilade to defilade, using hull down, staying mobile, and generally, staying out of the way of any anti-tank threats. Anti-tank rifles they should be okay against, at least from the front. Not sure about close range, sides, etc. But we'll see. Hopefully they're going to be able to angle onto any problem areas or problem units that Halloween has up his sleeve. Finally, that is finally, we had the Pioneer Platoon. So this is the Patreon Pioneer Platoon. They're co-located with the, because they're from a different unit, the platoon is co-located with the Fusilier Battalion commander. So Bernal Diaz, who's commanding the Pioneers, is sat next to Project Firehawk in the milk house. This is so that all the information that filters back to the battalion HQ can get shared with the Pioneers, because they're a different unit and it's not an organic linkage there. So they're in reserve in the milk house essentially, and I can send them out when I decide what angle is going to be best for tackling Pavlov's house. The actual squads. We have Günstling, which amusingly is, I had to look up, is a German word for like minion or helper, which is just kind of amusing. We got the in the actual squads we have an MG, an MP40, and we got the Flammenwerfer, and then we've got a couple of demo charges, which hopefully will let us break in. Wolfschen has got squad 2. Nicholas Shaler, you can't see the P for Patreon on the end of the name, but this is the Patreon platoon, so everyone's a subscriber. He's got the third squad, and then we have the attached scout team. So Liam, Eric 96, where are we? Yeah, over on this side. And who's up next? Chap! Go check Chap's channel out if you haven't already. He's repeatedly kicked my teeth in Combat Mission Black Sea, so obviously I'm going to get him killed in Red Thunder. And yeah, like I say, the Pioneer Platoon is the offensive element I want to use to get Pavlov's house. From the milk house, they can adjust onto whichever flank is going to be best for the actual attack. Whether that will be via Zab's house on this flank, because it could be, depending on how things pan out, or by loading up onto the tanks and pushing directly across the Pavlovs from here, under some smoke cover from the mortars. We will have to see. Like I say, 45 minutes, plenty of time, keep my options open. I did go and check the map though, and these little chunks here that I thought might be these little chunks of bush, these are actually brush tiles. So they're not light forest, they're not going to slow the tanks down much. Which is good, I like that, that's a nice option. So yeah, I have kind of abandoned going this way, because I really feel like I need to concentrate on one flank. So yeah, in a nutshell, the stages of the plan is we're going to be spotting and shooting things from the word go, occupying the post office to uncover more targets over here, suppress or snuff them out with the firepower, push another platoon up to the Vointorg. Hopefully this is going to draw Halloween's defenders into this area where they should be under artillery fire. And then from the Vointorg and the post office, which actually it could be difficult to push up through the post office. If only I brought more breach teams, huh? You idiot. From Vointorg and the post office, we have 2 support by fire positions, as well as the MGs further back to support an attack on Pavlov's house. And yeah, I need to make sure that I have enough time to punch in and clear the building, because that could take a while. But yeah, that is the plan. It sounds good. It's pretty conventional. Maybe predictable, but I have a significant points advantage going into this, so maybe I'm going to be able to get away with overwhelming him. We will see. And with that, let's press that button. I'm not going to target arc anybody on the first turn, he said. A decision he will regret on turn 1, but we'll see. Let's just press go, get that over to Halloween.